You're listening to X-Posure on Radio X. I'm John Kennedy, and that is DMA'S with Never Before, the opening track to the brand new album The Glow, which has just come out, and I'm very pleased to say that I have Johnny from DMA sat in front of me. Hello.
How are we doing?
All right, thank you. It's good to see you. It's been quite a few years. So I was just reminding you that you came in and did an acoustic session, we think maybe in 2016, something like that. I think it was the second session that you did for the show.
I'm having flashbacks.
It's great to have you back, and you're on your own soon. I've got you all to myself, Johnny.
I know, those other two are annoying anyway.
So, Never Before, the opening track to the third album by DMA'S. When did this album begin?
Well, you know what? This song, I'm pretty sure Tommy and I started working on the loop for this song way back when we were living in the apartment where we wrote Hill's End.
That long ago? That
long ago, yeah. And I think when we started, we wanted to have more electronic elements, I guess like involved in the songwriting process, but we didn't really have the knowledge on kind of, I guess, how to incorporate it or really what, guitars were our thing and pedals and that kind of thing. So I guess when we started, it was easier just to do the guitar band thing, but it's so cool that is such an old song, and it is maybe, we wrote it in the first year that we started writing. But it's really only seeing the light of day now, which I think is a big part of this record, because we weren't scared to hold off these songs until we were kind of in an environment and working with someone like Stuart Price, who has, a serious knowledge of electronic music and can kind of help us, really make it into the song that we wanted it to be, or we know it should have been, rather than releasing it prematurely and kind of always being a little bit like that wasn't exactly how I wanted it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And how do you hold on to a song like that? I mean, do you record a demo and you cling onto that file with dear life, or
years?
Because that's a long time. I mean, that's like
yeah, that was like 7 years or something.
Yeah,
which is cool. But you know what? The chorus was a melody that Tommy had been working on, so the song wasn't finished, but when Tommy goes into that start me, I lost myself, that part was a new part, so that wasn't written until maybe a couple of months before we recorded it anyhow.
Yeah, sure. So this was recorded with Stuart Price. Stuart Price, well known for working with Madonna and The Killers, and also for his own musical productions under Le Rhythm Digital and many other projects.
New Order,
of
Pet
course,
Shop
he's
Boys.
worked with. Yeah, I mean, it's quite an all-star cast that he's worked with. I mean,
he's a wizard.
Did you handpick him? I mean, how did that happen?
I think it was our label in the UK actually who got in contact with Stuart, and then he heard a bunch of the songs. I think Never Before may have been one of the first songs he heard, and I think he saw potential. I think we were a different band to kind of previous acts that he's worked with. We're obviously not as big as lots of those acts, and I think it was quite exciting for all of us.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so, in terms of that demo that you had years back, I mean, did that have any beats on it?
Yeah.
Right.
It did. It had that loop, that kind of jungly, kind of whistly loop that you hear at the start. So we obviously kept that in. And one thing I loved about working with Stuart is he is 100% down with using aspects of the demo in the real recording. He's not precious in the sense of it has to be recorded through this nice preamps in this nice space. And, he's like, if that's cool and it's vibey, let's go with it.
Yeah. So he took that, and you worked on the rest of it together. And was this one of the recordings made in London? Because I know that you recorded in
Oh no,
LA.
This one was in LA.
Yeah.
So he really, which is for me as a young aspiring producer, I learnt a lot from him because he would leave a little bit of leeway in the songs. There's no right or wrong way to write music, of course. And sometimes people like to have pretty much all the ideas down pat and ready before you go into the studio, which makes sense. You're spending a lot of money and time, and you've rented out this place, blah blah blah. Or there's the kind of idea where you leave maybe 10 to 15% of the song open, and which I really do quite love, because it means when we're in Westlake Studios, just near like Beverly Hills and stuff, and recording in LA for the first time in this incredible incredible room. And you know what? It's pretty fun being creative, surrounded by all that amazing gear. And another thing he did that was conducive to this was that we weren't sitting in a control room and then, you know, drums, and then the person walks into. He set up the studio, so it was basically a big circle. So we were in the live room, and we're sitting there, and the computers are there, and synths are here, and the drum kit's over there, and like, you know, oh, Tommy, do a vocal, and he just walk over there, and they're like, oh, Leesbo, go do some drums, you know, and then he just go over there, you know what I mean? And it was, it's a different way of recording, and I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah,
I think it's cool. It reminds me of when we recorded Hill's End in my bloody bedroom. Oh yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah, well, we just, you know,
that's really good. And so were the rest of the live band there with you then?
That's right.
Yeah. So the whole stage crew, in effect. You know.
Well, we would start the sessions with just me, Tommy, and Mason, and then we bring all the other guys in.
Yeah, as and when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After we've kind of finished the creative aspects of it, and we've kind of got the structure, and then we come in and then we jam it out with them and flesh it out and get the feel and the vibe.
Yeah, sure. So the next song is The Glow, and where does that fit into this? Is this another Westlake production?
This is another Westlake production, totally.
So you're in this lovely, comfortable environment, which you really like, which reminds you of kind of the early days of the band, just in your bedroom, but you're surrounded by the equipment with a few other people to realise these thoughts, really.
Yeah. Well, it had the energy of when we would sit around, you know, with just gear everywhere, but all the gear in there was incredible.
Right.
You know, that's the difference.
Yeah.
And you've got someone like Stuart manning it.
Yeah.
Making sure everything's cool.
And so The Glow is the title track. What's special and significant about this song?
You know what? This is another old tune. I actually remember writing the crux of it again in back when I was, you know, going to TAFE, which is, you know, like community college and back home, and I was studying audio engineering. I used to ride my bike through Surrey Hills every day, you know, just listening to music and getting inspired, and, you know, and it was, you know, I think I was about 24 at the time when it first started, but then once again, the chorus was written only a couple of months before the record. Once again, these songs that we've been holding on to for years, but they weren't finished, you know, and we've got a lot of them, and a lot of artists have a lot of them, and you have to be really smart and careful, I think, with filing them. I know file management's very boring to talk about on the radio, but, you know, and to know kind of where you're at with these tunes, because you never know when they're going to pop their head out. And releasing it now, and we played it live at Brixton for the first time ever, you know, the other day, and it's made the live set better. And but then so the chorus melody was, oh, actually, I just remembered that was an outro melody for another song now that didn't make the record, which I was a bit angry about it not making the record. But then they took the outro from that song, which was called Get Ravey, and then made it the chorus of The Glow, which is all right, but now Get Ravey doesn't have an outro.
But that's another one that could be worked on in the future.
Well, yeah, I'm still working on it.
Yeah. I mean, I love this idea that, you know, clearly you must have been so productive in those early days, you know, kind of so fired up that you were writing songs all the time, so many different ideas, and that you've been able to put them to one side as you go along until they're ready to be realised, which is what's happening with this new record, you know.
Totally. And do you know what's cool is those songs, you know, like, I know 23-year-old me speeding down these streets, you know, living in Newtown, the band's just starting up, we're writing these songs. There's like a youthful candor to the songs, and they still have that even 6 years later, because that's how they were written, you know, but for us personally, we have the knowledge and the experience to make them a better song than maybe they once would have been recorded as back then. Yeah. Which is cool, because there is still that, like I said, that, I guess, that honesty to it. Yeah. And that youthfulness, which is great. Yeah, totally. And Tommy sings, sick and tired of chasing the glow. What's the glow? The glow, see, that's the thing, is the song was written in in those days where, you know, it's a frustrating gig being a musician. And I guess that line is about us wanting to do this. We'd never been overseas. We were just playing gigs in the local area, and it's like, you know, maybe I want something more than this. But, you know, it's not just about, obviously, playing music. It can be related to anything. I think that's why it's a good line.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think we all feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, totally. It is DMA's with Silver on X-Posure Radio X. I'm John Kennedy, and with me tonight is Johnny Took. He is talking us through the whole of the new DMA's album, The Glow, which has just come out. Silver was our first taste of it, in a way, wasn't it, Johnny? The first thing that you put out.
It was.
From the record. And it has this lovely kind of shimmery quality to it, as do so many of the tracks on this album. You know, they've got all these lovely kind of textures, I think. Texture seems to be a big part of this new record.
Yep.
And something that I guess from what you've been telling us already, that you've kind of been seeking and reaching for a while, trying to get that right, that combination of the rhythms and the beats with those pedals that you were exploring back in the early days. Yeah,
that's right. And then once again incorporating elements of, you know, electronic drums and synthesizers, and just trying to tie it all in together. And I guess using the experience that we have now after a few records and a few years of touring to kind of get to that point where we want it. Also, I think it's important to note this song was the first song we recorded, and along with Round and Around, was produced by Scott Horscroft, who's a good friend of ours back from Sydney, who's done some amazing records before. And so we recorded this. So obviously the single had to be recorded before everything else, you know, as the campaign, as you know, you got to get your first song out and blah 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 blah, and also recording a full record, like 12 tracks in one session, is exhausting, crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so we did these two tracks with Scott, and it was great, and we got a string quartet in there, and you know, Mason used to play cello and whatnot, so he got really involved with the guy who was kind of orchestrating the string quartet, and they sat there and they worked on the part together, which was really great. And yeah, which was another new thing for DMA's to have that in there. And this was another song that was an older, maybe a country song originally when it was written, and was only finished once again maybe a month before we recorded it, or maybe even in the pre-production section was when Tommy sung the chorus. Right. Wow. Which is that "How do I redefine" lyric? Which, you know what, I always loved that song, but you know, once the string arrangement was on it, and once Tommy added that melody, once again, you know. That's my favourite thing about DMA's, is when it's the three of us collaborating together, is when it's the best. And if one of us wasn't here, you know, I think our lives would be very different. Yeah. It's interesting. It's a shame we don't have them here tonight. But at the same time, it means you get full reign to explain the magic and the chemistry, because it is a great chemistry between the three of you. Yeah, it's cool. We're best mates, you know. Yeah. And to be honest, it's only got stronger over the years, you know. Fingers crossed. But yeah, you know, I think we're better friends than ever, and we're really excited about the things we're doing, and we don't take it for granted, the fact that we get to play music, and that we get to travel, and that we get to, you know, like I said, work with, you know, not just Tommy and Mason, but the other guys in the band, Liam, Joel and Crandalls, and it's a good vibe. Yeah, it's really cool. Fantastic. So Silver, one of the songs that was recorded back home in Australia, Life is a Game of Changing, is the next song on the album. Yes. And this kind of goes full on dance straight away. Yeah. Unashamedly. Yeah. Which is cool. Oh, totally. No, but it's interesting because the way the songs on the album so far, you know, that kind of it almost creeps in little bits and pieces. Whereas this one is like, no, right, we're going for it this time. Well, yeah, I think we kind of wanted to do that. You know, Never Before has some spiraling synthesizers, and you know, some beats in there, and there's even you know, a few more, like I guess like the riff in The Glow was originally a bit more guitar driven. And then we have added synths to it, you know. So we've started creeping in more aspects of that, but this one is kind of just like hell for leather.
Yeah, totally. But at one point, was this the entrance music for you as you would walk on stage?
Yeah,
Is
so
that right?
I with this song is I think about it in three different stages of being written. The first was back when I was living with Mason in Botany, above the Botany Bay Hotel, which was a curious time. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. We didn't really do much because it would cost too much money to get back into town. You know, it cost you $100 to go each way.
Right.
So we kind of just like hung around at home all the time, you know, which was cool, you know. So, and just like just ate meals at the pub and brought them upstairs. Anyway, so we were doing a lot of writing together and just working on production. And this was a few years ago, probably like maybe 24 or something like that. And then and I was kind of getting into a new recording program, and I was talking to Mason about, you know, side chaining, you know, because a lot of these kind of parts of electronic production, you know, and all types of production is you just never stop learning, you know. But for so many years we were just so in guitar world, which is cool. It's like you had to do it, you know. I had to spend thousands of dollars on guitar pedals and only end up using 6 of them. You know, you have to do it. And anyway, so I asked Mason, I was like, mate, can you show me how to, you know, do this side chaining effect, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so he just picked 3 chords and basically in that session, Mason started riffing over the melody, the if you're gonna be there, the middle 8 kind of vibe. So we had this song, and it was maybe the first kind of demo that we'd, you know, experimented with adding, because the whole point of the exercise was we were doing pulsating synths, you know. Anyway, so for a while we used to walk onto that song, and no one would know what it was. And I know we kind of like the idea of walking onto our shitty demos, you know. It's like, I know there's something kind of fun about it. Like before, you know, we did it the other day. We walked on, at the Brixton gig a while back, and we walked onto a remix of Never Before, you know, which is cool, which is, well, you know, was unreleased at the time. So
yeah.
Anyway, so there was that, and then there was I guess and then when I moved to Edinburgh, which was when the crux of the first half, was when I started working, I guess, properly on Life is a Game of Changing, and which was, you know, 2 years after living in that Botany house or whatever, which is cool. And then we went to this we went on a riding trip, and we played a festival in Foster, which is about maybe 4 hours north of Sydney. And we did this riding trip, and to be honest, we thought we got nothing out of it because we didn't really do much. I don't think Mason picked up the guitar once. And we were like, you know, what kind of was that? And then drew on the connection. I was like, well, I've got this demo called Life is a Game of Changing. Tommy, can you sing on it? And then worked out that the chords were actually the same chords, but just in a key higher than that original I Don't Want to Get Lost demo that I did with Mason then. So we Frankensteined them together.
Right.
And then the third aspect, and then so we had that as the general, you know, song that we demoed and did vocals at that house in Foster, which Stuart ended up using as the actual vocals.
Right.
You know, so it wasn't that useless of a trip.
Yeah.
But then Stuart was like, hey, we need one more part to the song. And so kind of like what I was talking about, you know, leaving that 10% open and that creativeness in the studio. And basically, like, he's like, what have you got? You know? And then Mason had a vocal melody on guitar that was kind of like there was no lyrics, but it was kind of like you and I could be you know, and it was a vocal melody, and that's when we were like, oh, can we turn it to guitar? Can we turn it into synth? And then it ended up as that arpeggiated line,
right?
A bit of a beat or something.
Yeah, because the song just kind of builds and builds, doesn't it? It just kind of gets bigger and bigger as it goes on.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
And have you played this one live?
We have.
Yeah, because I'd have thought this is, you know, suddenly by the end, everybody's got their hands in the air.
Totally, and I was more excited than ever. I think we all were to incorporate this into our live set. I tell you what, I had a few sleepless months thinking about it. Yeah, I was just kind of like lying in bed, like with my eye twitching, just going, okay, how are we going to pull this off? Once again, we're a band that, we don't, I guess we're kind of even like one of the few bands that you see at some of those big festivals these days that don't really play too much click track and stuff like that, which for a lot of electronic music you have to. You can't physically, you can do as much as you can, and we try and do as much as we can, but we had to incorporate that into our set to add certain elements of it and to give that dancey feel, which is cool. But so there's like a few tracks in the song in the set list now that have that. But we're a guitar, we have been till this point as just like a band of a bunch of dudes that just get up and just start thrashing the guitar, So on this record, we had to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of terrifying, but also a bit of a relief now it's done.
Yeah. So you pulled it off, you've tried and tested it, you've seen the reaction, and it's now adding another element to DMA's live sets.
100%. 100%. And that's my favorite thing about having this record out now, is I really feel like it's, I don't know, the sets has tied itself together. All those, there were definitely songs that I felt like, or just emotional vibe, or how do I articulate it? In the set, there was something missing for me, and I feel like it's really rounded off now.
That's great. It is DMA's with Criminals on Radio X. It is the 5th track on their new album, The Glow, which is out now. I'm John Kennedy. With me is Johnny from DMA's, giving us a track-by-track breakdown of what is happening on this new album. And this is a bit of a ballad, I suppose, but it has all these kind of jittery electronic bits in it. So it's a kind of an interesting combination of the two approaches that exist within DMA's world, I suppose.
Totally. And this is one of those cheeky little songs that when you think you've picked all the tracks on your next record, and then like a month before you're about to go in, just like a little email pops up in your thing, and Mason and Tommy had been working on this song for a while. I think maybe when I was in Edinburgh, and then we, just after I'd moved back to Melbourne, I got the email in my inbox, and I remember driving around Melbourne, and put the track on, and I hadn't heard it yet, and it was pretty. It's a pretty instant song, and it's pretty beautiful, and it's cool. And then it's it's kind of like you hear a lot of people talking about it. It's like when you think you've just decided what the record is, and then there's this one song that kind of comes in at the end, but it makes the record stronger.
Yeah,
for what it is, and yeah, it's a beautiful song.
So you took yourself off to Edinburgh for a while. How long did you live in Edinburgh?
I guess I was there for 10 months, but I was going to do a year. But I was working on a record with my partner on her solo EP, so just the way that the time frame kind of worked out, and I had to get back to Oz earlier to do some pre-production and stuff for that. But yeah, basically about a year.
Yeah. So that was to kind of refresh yourself, give yourself a different perspective on life.
Yeah, Sydney was getting a bit weird for me. I kind of felt like, as much as, I'm born and bred from Sydney and all my friends and family are there, but I kind of just felt like I was going around the same haunts, talking the same shit, and moving house is a really good way to write some new songs as well. Just change your surroundings and to do... to kind of make a call like that. You know what? I'm going to go live in bloody Edinburgh on the other side of the world, which is it's a lot quieter city. And yeah, so I just kind of like spent most of the time when I was, obviously, so I didn't have to fly back after we toured in the UK, and I could just go back to Edinburgh. And yeah, I know, I kind of just spent most of my time walking around, listening to music, getting re-inspired again, and just writing.
Yeah. It sounds like a great thing to do, but maybe quite a brave thing to do, quite a hard decision to make, to suddenly pull yourself away from everything.
Yeah, but I think that's what you want, if you're going to start writing music again, you need to start. And I guess that was the concept behind Life is a Game of Changing, and thinking about where my life was at, and, you know, and embracing it, even if it is scary, you know, and just moving forward and just never stop learning and, you know, just keep pushing yourself.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it was great. But you know what? It's one thing see, one of my favourite songwriters, Paul Kelly, he's spoken about, you know, growing up in the public eye, which is kind of what you're doing when you're releasing albums, you know, because most of the time you don't really know what's going on. You're just like, I wrote some songs and, you know, I want to make them the best I can, you know, or whatever, you know, but you're learning and you're maturing in the public eye, and once stuff's released, it's just out there forever, and you got to live with that.
Yeah.
But I think that's fine, you know.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got to do that in lots of different parts of their life anyway, you know. Sometimes you got to fuck up a bit to move forward stronger.
Yeah, yeah. So Strangers is the next song, and I guess you put yourself in amongst strangers by moving to the other side of the world. But this has another kind of sound to it. I mean, this reminds me of more Chiba or the Sneaker Pimps maybe from the 90s, who are kind of forgotten now, but created a really nice, different kind of sound at the time, you know, which was, you know, tapped into trip hop, but was also, you know, quite song based and, you know, had a nice kind of relaxed feel to it. Were you aware of those kind of bands? Of those?
Well, I didn't write any of this song.
Right.
This is all Mason.
All Mason.
Pretty
right.
much. I think. Oh no, Tommy. I think maybe had some. You know, I don't like. To be honest, I'm quite bad at sometimes at recollecting how these moments happen. But basically, this song it was a song that Mason had brought to the table in Hills End days.
Right. So another one that kind of goes back.
Another oldie that kind of, you know, once again, it wasn't quite right, wasn't quite there, but with a bit more knowledge and whatever, I think we eventually got there. And, you know, this song's one of my favourites on the record. I think it's probably the coolest song on the record. I love the drum sound. I've always loved that riff. And I really liked the resonance in Tommy's voice when he hits the chorus. Kind of soars, and you know, sometimes with singers you can find that sweet spot in their register where it feels like a bit effortless. Yeah, totally. And how big is this vault of songs that you seem to have that go back and back in time? Well, I think, I don't know, off the top of my head, when we did Hills End, it was up to about maybe like 70 or 80, and then we did Hills End, and then before The Glow, I think it was like maybe up to 35. And then we picked 11, obviously. Right. But it's good. It's always kept us ahead of the curve a bit. And it's made the whole experience a lot less stressful for me. Yeah. And it was a conscious decision that we did. Yeah. You know, that we wanted to write for 2 years. And because we knew that, you know, you don't get many chances at this. You know, especially in the art or I guess anything, really. And if you're given your moment or your opportunity, you want to do the best you can with it, and you want to take it as far as you can. And that was one decision I'd made and learned, and I've hashed on it before in interviews, but it really just like made it a lot less stressful knowing that we had this kind of group of songs, you know, ready to I don't know, just it made the whole, it just made the whole, every record, it just made it so much better. Cause no, you know, and like the way that I've spoken to you about how we've brought in these old songs, doing this makes, like, heaps of songs didn't make this last record that I wish made the record. But I'm cool with that because they'll be on the next one. Yeah. And that makes me feel comfortable knowing there's songs I still love that need to be recorded. Yeah. So there's more work to be done. Yeah, it's exciting for you because you know in the back of your mind you think it's all right. No. Yeah, rather than going, oh wow, you know, had a great gig at Brixton the other day, but you know, Christ, I haven't written a song for 6 months, you know, and then start freaking about it, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's good.
Fantastic.
In that way.
Excellent. You're listening to X-Posure on Radio X. I'm John Kennedy, and that is DMA'S with Learning Alive. It's the 7th song on their new album, The Glow, which I'm playing in full with Johnny Took from the band, talking us through it track by track. And Learning Alive takes us into a kind of new territory in a way on this record.
Yep.
And it recalls people like John Lennon or Neil Young, maybe. And
that makes me happy that John Lennon and Young, that's pretty,
Yeah, it's a good combination,
it's a good
combination. And so when we hear the kind of piano type songs by DMA'S, who leads the way on that kind of thing?
Oh, it's all different. Like Mason is the keys player.
Right.
But for me as a songwriter, getting into piano over the last few years, which has kind of worked in with the synth aspect as well, has been really good because I guess when you're playing guitar, just through muscle memory, you kind of go to the sometimes can go to the same chords, or just like you start using your old tricks, and then I think when you jump on any new instrument, and then for me this was piano, sitting there, and all of a sudden you're not looking at the fretboard, just all the keys are in front of you, and because I'm a bit average, you start playing chords that you wouldn't normally play, or blah, 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 or go to positions you wouldn't normally go. And I guess this is kind of one of those songs.
Yeah. So where did you start writing this one?
I wrote this at my parents' house, actually, one morning. I wrote it about most of it pretty much in about 20-30 minutes when I was kind of in between houses. And actually, I think I was maybe just moved to Edinburgh, but I was over in Australia for shows. So I crashed at their place, and they've got a piano there, which is nice because I don't have a piano really anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're there sitting at their piano, trying things out. Do you record that on your phone? Is that how you save these moments?
Totally. That's it. Yeah. Actually, the same piano where it was very, very reminiscent of the kind of Step Up the Morphine and In the Air, same vibe of the piano songs that I've kind of kicked off, I guess.
Yeah.
And so it kind of reminds me of that, same spot, same moment, and just, on a little iPhone memo.
Yeah, fantastic. And then you save that and then go back to it. And Learning Alive, you've been talking about learning and putting yourself into new situations and keeping yourself stimulated, trying out different things. Is that what the message is for Learning Alive? Yeah,
I think the loose message about it, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but just, speaking to a few close people to me, and I don't know, I guess the truth is there's a lot of really sad people out there, and I've had a great life so far, but there's a lot of people that don't, and you literally, and I guess that's where the concept of learning alive comes from, and we've hashed on it a bit today, of just growing up and learning in general. So I guess, that's kind of the idea of it, is that maybe, but I'm on your side, so there is that sadness, but you can help each other, and there is a brighter future, without sounding too corny, but you know what I mean, getting through these harder times, there is more, and there's, life goes on, and it can be healed, but you learn from these mistakes, or little tangents that you've taken in your life, but but you can get back there. Yeah. And I guess that's kind of loosely what it's about. So you follow Learning Alive with Hello Girlfriend, and this gets more rocky. In a way, could this be the most rocky track on the album? There's more guitars on this. Yeah, it kind of harks back to old school DMA'S stuff. This is one of my favourite songs on the record, by the way. Maybe because it is going back to that old school rocky thing. And this is I remember when Mason sent this song over, I was really blown away, and I was like, this has to be on the record, basically, as well. When the initial idea was there, and then I'd had a chorus that I'd been working on in Edinburgh, and it was great. And when he sends those songs over, what does he send you? Is it just the tune, or does it have some words on top? So it had words. Tommy had sung, done the vocal line on it, but it was really grungy. I think he even drop D'd it or something, and it was really just dirty, such a funny thing. And loosely, the idea is it's about a guy waking up out of a coma, basically. Like, hello, doctor, hello, girlfriend, you know?
Right.
And, which is a curious thing to write about.
Yeah,
but once
it
again,
is.
and like how you would feel if that happened to you and you were like, wow, where's my life at now? Where am I going? And how do I deal with this? And, you know?
Yeah. And so those words were there already. Tommy was singing them.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and that was the kind of the concept behind, you know, the initial part of the song.
And so were those words written by Tommy or by
Mason?
Right.
But the chorus was actually written about my apartment in Edinburgh.
Right.
But we just did cheeky Frankenstein again. But I think, you know, lyrically they connect as well, which is cool.
Yeah. No, it's great. And what an interesting idea. You know, and it kind of ties in with those guitars because it's like you have just come out of a coma, you know.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, and then once again, you're like, wow, how am I going to move forward in my life and blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
But yeah, my apartment was called, the owner of it was called Christy. So and that's where the line, oh, Christy, look what you've made here.
Right.
It's kind of like, I kind of thought if I was writing any parts where I wanted to refer to my apartment, I'd call it Christy.
Excellent. I love that idea. Well, that's sneaky, tiny information.
Yeah. It's pretty cheeky.
Did you have to explain that to the others? Or do they question him and they say, who's Christy? What's going on?
No, not really. We're not really like that. We just felt like the parts were really good together. And especially once we got the acoustic in there and it was jangly and it's really got that old school DMA'S vibe, you know. I'm going to write jangly guitar music for the rest of my life, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was nice that there was one on the record and we even incorporated it early. You know, we played it in our live set when we supported Liam on that last run. And
right.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, fantastic.
And it works well live and people were into it.
Yeah, totally. It is DMA's with Appointment. It is the 9th song on the new album, The Glow. I'm John Kennedy. With me is Johnny Took from the band, giving us a lowdown on every single track on the record. And you get dreamy again with Appointment.
You know what? This is actually my favourite.
What I love is that you really like a lot of the tracks.
Well,
all your favourites.
Yeah, you know, made me realise it more now. No, we're proud of this record. Yeah,
but this has a lovely gentle quality to the guitar and to the voice as well. You know.
Yeah.
Where did you record this one?
This was recorded in LA.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and it probably is to be honest, this is probably one of my favorite songs that Mason's written, and I just think it's so beautiful, and it'd been around for a while, and yeah, working with Stuart on this, I guess it became a little bit more like, because it grows quite a lot, you know, as a tune, and like when the initial electric guitar comes in, it's almost like a little bit too loud, but once the rest of the instruments come in, it, you know, everything finds its place. And yeah, I guess lyrically, you know, there's a little line on this song, in this song, which says, "Note to self, pull over." I feel like it's a very relatable lyric for all of us out there. Sometimes when you're, you know, pushing everything a little bit hard. Yeah, just put a break on for a bit. Yeah, I think it's important.
So you follow Appointment with Round and Around, and I think you were telling me earlier that this was one that was recorded in Australia.
With Scott Horscroft, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, with him before, on the other track, you know, you'd recorded some strings and stuff. What were you going to do with Round and Around?
I guess this was more kind of, we wanted to bring a bit more of the heavier rock guitars back into on the record, and kind of even go back to kind of hail back to an older DMA style, but you know, this is the first album that we recorded the whole thing in the studio. Every single album before, we've either done some part of it in like one of our bedrooms or bloody in our studio that we had above this pub called the Lady Hampshire for a while, you know, on for now. But so yeah, I guess this is, you know, this was kind of like one of the first rocky songs that we done in the full studio, and yeah, it's cool. This song's been around for bloody years as well. I think it's tried to make every release since it's been written.
Right.
Yeah.
And you've never been able to get it right until you could get into the big studio to do it?
I think it was working with Scott
Right.
And that's what happens when you get a great producer to work with. Scott and Stuart just brought so much to the table, and we learnt so much from them. But maybe it's collaborating with an experienced producer. Is I think what it takes sometimes. To get the songs over the line, and especially when the three of us are all really chilled with creative ideas and whatnot. But you do get stuck sometimes, and to have an extra person there to kind of direct things and whatnot, I think that's what having Scott on this track was what brought it together.
Yeah. It is DMA'S with Round and Around on X-Posure Radio X from the new album The Glow, which I've been talking about and playing you in full with Johnny from the band, track by track. There's one more to go, Cobracaine, which I guess is this is another big dancey one, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. I can't wait to play it live.
And so, I mean, you haven't tried this one yet. So, I mean, is that vocoder on Tommy's voice? What?
Yeah. A bit of vocoder, Yeah, I guess, once again, I think this was the record to try new things, to do something different, to work with a producer like Stuart Price and like I've touched on it, to just kind of keep learning and keep moving. And there's parts of it that old school DMA's fans might not like, but I reckon in 6 months or whatever, once the album grows on them, they will, And I've seen that before with our records, but we didn't want to make the same record as we have before. Some artists do, which is fine as well. If because it works, and if it works, but we wanted to keep moving, and I feel like I've said this for every song now, which is feeling kind of weird. But like we tried to record Cobracaine in 2014 with in the same session that we recorded Delete, but it didn't make the cut.
Yeah.
And it wasn't till, once again, we tried it out. And actually, we worked on this song with Louis Tomlinson one time in the session.
Wow.
When he came here. And that was when we added, so we made it more synthy, more sparse in kind of what you'll hear. Because it's kind of like emo dance music or something, this song. It's, what I mean? It's kind of got that vibe. But the way we recorded it before was a little bit... because it was so guitar driven, it definitely sounded more whingy, and so we sped it up a bit and put some synths on it. But I think actually Louis had an idea. He was like, "You should get into the chorus a bit quicker." I think we ended up using it. I'm gonna have to give him some points or something.
Fantastic. And Cobracaine, what is Cobracaine?
Oh, okay. It's a I'm pretty sure Mason named it from there's a store in Melbourne called Cobracaine, and I think they this might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they sell like cane chairs, like cane chairs.
Yeah.
But with like maybe cobras on the...
Right.
Yeah, they're like snake heads on the... I think that's the vibe.
Yeah.
Cane chairs like kind of like crafted with like snakes or something.
Wow. That sounds intriguing.
Yeah, I'm into it.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
And so that stuck, and it became the name of the song.
That's right.
Yeah.
But it's it's a pretty sad song. It's the initial kind of idea about the song is it's about these kids driving up to schoolies, which is the big party after you finish high school, and obviously it's a crazy long drive from up the coast. If you're coming from Sydney to Thingo, and dying in a car accident, basically. Wow, which is horrible.
Which is something that happens. This is a regular occurrence.
That's right. It's a 14-hour drive from Sydney to Brisbane. Holiday season. People drinking. Blah 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 blah. The vibe. And unfortunately, it happens every year. So it's pretty sad stuff.
Yeah. Wow. Johnny, so good to have you here. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having a chat. I feel like I learned something about the record.
Oh,
today.
good. That's always helpful, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's so good to have a new record from the DMAs, and also to have one that when you're exploring different things and trying out new sounds, and it's clear that this development has been long in the planning and the hoping, in a way, because some of these ideas date back to 2014, and you exploring your ideas about what your songs could be, and the idea that you're still working and evolving that, which is really exciting.
And I already feel like we've learnt so much from the Glow, and I can't wait to start moving on to the next thing as well.
Yeah,
because I think we've I don't know, we're wrapping our head around a few things,
Radio X.